speaking class, and I'm going to be doing a persuasive speech today on whether or not breed restrictions for dogs that are considered aggressive are legitimate. So if you could do pan over the audience, and these are the visual aids. Ooh, yes, this very special item.
Okay. You want to hold it for me?
How many of you had a childhood pet? Anybody?
Me.
All right, me too. I had a childhood pet named Little Richard Butkus, who was named after a very famous Chicago Bears player at the time, and he was an American Staffordshire Terrier. As you can tell, he was vicious.
Oh.
And so, Butkus used to let me do many things, like put tutus around his neck or paint his nails, all of which I partook in. And it might sound corny to say, but he was one of my best friends when I was little. We did everything together.
Aww.
So you can imagine my surprise when the first time I signed a lease for my own place, I learned that dogs like Butkus, like American Staffordshire Terriers, were not welcome in a lot of rental communities. So today we're going to talk about the restrictions placed on dogs like Butkus by rental properties, homeowners, associations, and insurance companies, and the effects of those restrictions on the livelihood and the community of profile breeds. So, illegitimate breed restrictions are limiting housing options and adoption rates for these certain profiled breeds. Limitations are breed specific and not dog specific. So a lot of times, even if a dog is docile and non-aggressive, because they're part of a certain breed, they won't be allowed to live in certain areas or partake in certain activities. Leases specifically list breeds and not dog characteristics a lot of times. And profiling animals by behavior that humans often train them to do. So this is a little bit of an issue. And many restricted breeds are the most common rescue dogs as well, so we see a correlation there. You have a list of the most commonly restricted breeds according to Forbes. They put together a list of warning people, actually, as to what breeds to not get if you don't want to have higher homeowners or renters insurance. So you'll see that top of the list is Pit Bulls and Staffordshire Terriers, then Doberman Pinschers, Rottweilers, and German Shepherds are all in the top 4. Coincidentally, in the top 4 commonly euthanized rescue breeds and mixes, according to Paw Nation, Pit Bulls and Terrier mixes are the first. The second are Rottweilers or Rottweiler mixes. Third, German Shepherds or German Shepherd mixes. And fourth are Doberman Pinscher or Doberman Pinscher mixes. So there's a very strong correlation with these dogs that are in rescues, humane societies, and a lot of them have a higher euthanasia rate than other dog breeds. So Pit Bulls or Terrier mixes, because a Pit Bull is not actually a dog breed, but instead a categorization of dog, are bred as a smaller version of a bull baiting dog, which was not initially meant to be a violent dog, but instead a working animal. In urban areas, about 40% of the shelter population is composed of some sort of pit mix, and nearly 2/3 of the dogs in heavily urban areas that are euthanized from humane shelters, etc., are some sort of pit mix. So overall, it's one of the most commonly abused, neglected, and euthanized dogs. Rottweilers come in second, and they're the 3rd most common breed to turn up in rescue shelters. They're considered by many people to be the dogs that are most likely to bite. However, they are working animals, and they're categorized as working dogs. So they're meant to be out doing something, and a lot of times you see these working animals become a little bit more destructive, a little bit more violent when they're caged up or when they're trained to do so. So German Shepherds are kind of the same coincidence, where they're a working animal and they need a job, and a lot of times these dogs are put in family homes where they don't have anything to do. So they're seen as having destructive or aggressive behavior because they're not in the element that's most appropriate for them. So Doberman Pinschers are the bottom of the list, but still very, very common, and they were originally bred as a family dog as well, as a guard dog to provide companionship. So they are thought of as a mix of Rottweiler and Terrier, according to the American Kennel Association. And so a lot of times they're kind of shoved in with the Rottweilers and Terrier mixes because of that affiliation as well. Where breed restrictions most frequently take place. So areas we need to be aware of. Thank you, Josiah. Areas we need to be aware of are rental properties when you sign your lease, and a lot of us live in this apartment complex. We signed a lease with a breed restriction on it. Homeowners insurance also has a lot of breed restrictions, and kennels oftentimes have breed restrictions as well. A lot of times our response can be, well, I don't have a pet, so it's not really an ethical issue for me. Or we can say, I do own a pet that's part of a breed restriction, but I'll just move someplace else where they're welcome. These are both legitimate responses, but even if you're not a dog owner, I'm pretty sure you probably don't support a bunch of dogs being euthanized just because they're a certain breed. So it's an issue we can all agree on that front. So now that we're informed, how do we stop this trend? First, proper care and choosing of the right pet for you is a big step. According to the ASPCA, most dogs end up in shelters because owners adopt them and find out that they're too much of a handful or a different dog than they expected them to be. This includes working breeds, which require a lot of space and need work available to be satisfied in what they're doing. Athletic breeds like terriers require longer walks or exercise time, which also is a space commitment. And companion breeds are best for smaller homes where there's not a lot of exterior space, but where they can receive a lot of attention internally, so they need their owner to be around more frequently. We can also evaluate breed restrictions for legitimacy. So, for instance, a size-based restriction, can be legitimate if you live in a very small apartment. That's reasonable. You don't want to keep a gigantic dog in a 400 square foot space all the time. So that's understandable. However, when breed restrictions go to what breeds are considered aggressive versus what aren't, and whether or not they're allowed to live in a space, that's an illegitimate restriction according to the certain traits of that dog. And you should be able to appeal that restriction if it's illegitimate. Most importantly, if we are to take on this issue, we should seek to adopt those animals that deserve a second chance and may have been abused previously. So one of the greatest things that you can do for an animal that has been abused or has been a victim of breed restriction in the past is to adopt this animal and give it a second chance at a normal life. When adopting, always determine the type of dog you're looking for and establish the best fit for you and your family. So we've talked about some possible solutions and the difference they can make, but what can we as individuals do to keep this process in motion and avoid the stereotyping that comes with breed restriction? Again, we can seek to adopt or rescue animals instead of purchasing animals. Breed-restricted mixes are more likely to end up in shelters or in rescues, so that's always an option. And if you keep a breed-restricted dog, keep it properly. So if you have a pit mix, if you have a Rottweiler, give the Rottweiler what it needs so that it doesn't emotionally end up needing to do something that it wouldn't normally do, like, say, biting someone or acting aggressively. So it's on the responsibility of the owner to keep a dog properly if they have a dog that's stereotyped as one of these dogs. And of course that leads to word of mouth. If you've kept a breed-restricted dog in the past, like we have members of the audience who have had a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd, I had Butkus, my adorable American Staffordshire Terrier. Keep those dogs well and let people know that these dogs are not meant to act in that way, but instead it's the result of human training or some sort of emotional turbulence in their lives that has caused them to act out in this way. So overall, most of the negative effects of breed restriction and profiling can be overcome by proper dog ownership and education to the public. Mark Twain was once quoted saying, "If you pick up a starving dog and make him prosperous, he will not bite you." This is the principal difference between a dog and man. So we can try and go ahead and give these dogs a second chance, stop profiling them so that they don't need a second chance in the first place, and be smart dog owners. That's what I wanted to share. Thanks, Josiah. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
So, are there any specific things that you came across that would make you think, like, I see you have wolf hybrids on here. Are there any specific traits that are inherently more violent in dogs that you do need to be aware of?
Wolf hybrids, for instance, don't do well. A wolf is not an animal that was ever designed to be in a home. So wolf hybrids may be on there more because it would never be a considerate environment to keep a wolf hybrid in a home. So that's an issue. Some of the other ones, it's a lot of improper treatment like Akitas. A lot of people don't take care of them like they should. So that's why a lot of these end up on the list, is because there's something going on. These dogs have particular needs that are not being met, and typically in dog ownership, so they end up acting certain ways. But yeah, wolf hybrids for sure should not necessarily be in a home at any time. That's not what they were meant to do. So.
And where did you get most of your information from? I wanted to find out more.
I looked at a lot of information on the ASPCA as far as how to adopt dogs and properly take care of them. The American Kennel Club is a great resource, not necessarily for adoption because they're more on the consumer side of it and breeders, but if you're interested in knowing what your dog's temperament will be like, whether they're a working dog, an athletic dog, a companion dog, they do a profile of each dog breed so you can learn what's most appropriate for my setting. Yes.
I was interested to see Great Danes on there because I've just known a Great Dane from one of my cousins. And do you think, like, do they actually have any type of like violent tendencies, or is that more of just the size you think for being in apartments?
Mostly the size.
Okay.
I haven't seen Great Danes on a lot of aggression lists so much as I have just space-wise. If you are a homeowner, then they may reconsider, which again is not necessarily legitimate depending on the size of your home, but can sometimes make, this is for insurance again, so it can make insurance more expensive.
That makes sense. Okay, cool.
So, anyone else?
So the breeds that are, I guess, working dogs, like the German Shepherd, what kind of things could you do to help them with those needs?
Taking them on walks is a great first step, just getting them out of the house. A lot of people with large dogs can sometimes just let them into the yard, and they just want to feel like they have a purpose. So a lot of German Shepherds, a lot of herding dogs will start herding children if they're in the house, you know, and they'll kind of guide them around the house, and that's a happy day for a herding dog. But there are other instances where families may have a herding dog, like a Great Pyrenees, perhaps, where they can go outside and take care of the other family animals. So they really like to have a job, and dogs can sense, working dogs at least, where they really have that strong innate want to work. They can tell when they have a job and when they have a purpose, because they want a role in that family, which is really cool. So definitely, though, giving them space. If there's nothing for them to do, then maybe teaching them some tricks, giving them proper training so that they know their role in that family. So. Anyone else? Stop. Okay.
Does anybody have any critiques or comments?
I think that was...
I think you did a good job with your transitions there and your speech.
Yeah.
You clearly stated what you were going to do, and then you did it.
Okay. Anything that could have been done better?
I would say maybe with your introduction, laying out what steps you were going to take us through. Maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't remember you specifically saying what steps you were going to take us through in your speech. That's helpful to me.
I don't think I did that, so you're right.
At that last quote you said, we were like, yeah. that was a good, like, you know, attention grabber. It really pulled things together, and it made sense. It wasn't just interesting, it actually made sense also. So I think it was great.
Josiah has lots of...
He has many feelings.
Public speech doesn't get any harder than having one.
Yeah, you
That was a true test.
Boom, like
So,
Survivor.
yeah, you can overcome every speech. Now they're all going to be easy.
It's a child's
It's
worst
true.
nightmare.
But I was really glad you guys were able to come. I think we're done with that.